have Diego from Crestline and Blair from PLN, and they're going to share with us the Kowhai Screen. This is a really interesting topic. This is workplace design meets biophilia, or designs inspired by nature, something that we really enjoy exploring within our studio. So I'd like to welcome them both to the stage to come and talk to us about that.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ngā nui kia koutou katoa. Hi everyone, I'm Diego, this is Blair, thanks for having us. We'll just jump right into it with Kowhai. Just a quick little bit about Crestline. We're a furniture business, we sell commercial office furniture. We weren't exactly new to product design as such. Developed numerous workstation systems over the years, but it was mainly for structural elements. Two of the directors of the company are engineers by trade. So everything was built, I believe the term is like a brick ablution block. Really basic, really functional, and just fit for purpose, but nothing to look at really. So developing a sculptural piece of furniture was new ground. What it can offer and what the challenges are in developing new ideas into a visually appealing product was something that we just weren't really comfortable with. For us, new products were mostly sourced from overseas suppliers. So trade shows, existing suppliers bringing new products to the market, online research. We would find something that we thought was kind of cool, and we would bring it into New Zealand in the hopes of selling heaps of it, because that's what we do. But it was successful. We developed many strong relationships with our global suppliers. It helped us become a strong company in New Zealand commercial office furniture. But you can't always find what you're looking for. And so sometimes you have to go and design things yourself. So one of the things that we looked at was cable management. As you can see, it can be a bit of an issue. And we wanted something that looked just a little bit nicer. Still served the purpose, still did what it needed to do, but didn't look like a spaghetti nightmare. We learned a lot through that process. Anytime we thought of a design element that would make it look a bit better, it caused 3 other technical issues that we didn't anticipate. So there was a lot of trial and error, there was a lot of prototyping. It was not a pleasant experience, but ultimately rewarding. We liked what we came up with in the end. And it got us interested in designing with a bit more purpose, a bit more form to go with the function. So we talked about what we might like to look at next, and desk screens came up. They've been around for ages. They're much of a muchness when it comes to design. And we weren't really sure, if the market was interested in a new screen design or if they were happy with what was out there. In the midst of the new COVID reality, we were seeing bigger screens, lots of perspex add-ons, side screens, that sort of stuff. So we figured we could bring something else to the scene, but we weren't sure what. What could we do differently? What could a new approach deliver, and why? What was the point? For this, and having learned all those hard lessons with our Clearway cable management system, we decided to collaborate with the experts. And we went to Blair's team at PLN, and they introduced us to the idea of biophilia, incorporating it into product design and how it can inform and guide your design process. So for that, I will hand over to Blair.
Evening, and thanks, Diego. Before I get started, I just want to say every time I get to be in a group like this, I'm always humbled and inspired by what you guys do. And we aspire to do great things with a humble piece of furniture, and we just always appreciate being in such a great crowd. And as much as furniture is often quite a humble little piece, it inspires us no less to try and do something profound with it. And our organization has been created around the whole purpose of trying to use furniture as a tool for productivity and helping organizations perform better. My background comes from helping organizations in that respect, and I really challenged our team to see if we couldn't do the same thing. And historically, our expertise has led us into areas of such as acoustics and with some degrees of success that we now export to about 17 different countries and have over 200 people representing us in all these different countries and continents. So we're kind of proud for being the small little underdog out of Avondale that's now punching above our weight in countries like India and China. So as much as we've been curious about acoustics and how that might help people in the modern workplace, we've also, over the last 5 years, started to become increasingly aware about the impacts of wellness in people in the office space and what that's doing. The Moore's Law and how that's impacting the speed of life, the things that the technologies are doing. Saw a fun little stat the other day that if you have but one unanswered email on your phone or inbox right now, it can lower your IQ by 10 points. So there's the point being is that there's this innate amount of stress being brought into bear, and we got really curious about how we might use our skills as product and furnishing interior people to bear in this sort of space, and how powerful could that be to employers and companies if we could help you with that. And along this journey, we started to discover the concept of biophilia. And I want to give credit to Jesse and Vivid Origin, because this is a concept that we have discussed with them, and I owe them some credits for some of the visuals I'm going to share with you tonight. But I think what that does is demonstrate that this is a talking point that we want to perhaps talk some more about. So biophilia is differentiated from biomimicry, where biomimicry is using nature as a source of inspiration to drive perhaps performance or engineering sorts of characteristics within our products. If I said to you, if you think of a honeycomb, which has that perfect shape, strength, you think of a hummingbird and how that might inform aerodynamics, or a shark skin and how that informed the design of Olympic caliber swimsuits. That's biomimicry informing that. Whereas biophilia, the hypothesis of biophilia is that we evolved from this sort of agrarian existence where prior to the urbanization of the world, we had this constant contact with nature, and it's become somewhat hard-coded into who we are as people and what we respond to. But as urbanization has occurred and our proverbial concrete jungles have developed, we have lost those contact points. And research is showing us that reconnecting with those points will actually help us not prevent stress, but mitigate the impacts from it. We can measure that through cortisol, which is the hormonal marker of stress, heart rate, systolic, diastolic, and all these sorts of things. So there's a good degree of high-quality research that's emerging that says that this is a valid strategy that we can bring to bear and help people perform and enhance their lives a little bit more. If I could use it as an example, if I can ask you, each of you, just to try and anticipate or reflect on a scenario where there was an intense pressure, a time frame, a project for delivery that must meet a certain time frame, or you had a particularly complex situation that you just didn't know how you were going to resolve that at that point in time. There's sort of a maximum stress, and if I asked you at that point in time to imagine your happy space, probably I think around 8 or 9 out of 10 of us would imagine someplace in nature. You think about, I've talked to a couple of students in here today who are cyclists, and that moment where you're mountain biking in a forest with that peace and quiet because the pine leaves absorbing all that sound, or the patterns that are emerging from the trees, those things that you just inherently, in your gut, you respond to, while you're captivated by a crackling fire or the crashing of an ocean. For me, it's my feet in the sand on a beach as waves roll in. That's biophilia at play. So how can we bring these things to bear and deploy them in a product design strategy? And when Diego's team approached us and said, look, this is the kind of thing that we wanted to do, we challenged ourselves to work with them and try and deploy some of these tactics. As product designers, the difficulty is to understand the concept, but how you might practically apply it. And what we've found is this is a great source of information for anyone who has interest, is I can recommend a website and a company called Terrapin Bright Green out of the United States. And they've captured this beautiful framework, I think, on how you can practically begin to deploy or utilize some of these tactics within your product or spatial design strategies. And they neatly bucket it within three broad categories, where you talk about the nature of space, or the nature within a space, or using natural analogs to bring those elements within. And it invites opportunities for you to deploy things like within the nature of space, and how you might use a little bit of mystery intrigue in the way that you design or place products, refuge and safe havens that you can deploy within that. It might also be the way that you create the environment of the space through natural light, or views to space, or climate control, all those sorts of things. And then, of course, where we as product designers will tend to want to come into is that potential of using products and natural analogs within that space. And that's where we focused. And one of the most interesting things that we discovered is that there's a piece of research that came out of Harvard specifically that I'm thinking of, where the way that you design these products can operate within a spectrum. You can either use a virtual, or you can use imitated forms of products itself, and all have equal value. So it's just within a spectrum. So you can, this particular study that I'm talking about within Harvard subjected the students and the members that were part of this test control into an intense, stressful situation, where there was like an exam-style situation within a time frame that was shortened, and other stressors were brought to bear, and they measured hormonal markers, and then immersed them in different styles of environments, one which was completely virtual, and one that had magnificent views out to. And in each case, there were observable decreases in the magnitude of around 30%, decreases in those hormonal markers, just through either augmented reality, virtual reality, or actual views within the space. So this inspired us, and talked about how that might inform. And I want to acknowledge Troy Darrow, who's not here tonight, and Kai Robinson, who is here tonight, I believe, who worked on that product design team and helped with that. Their inspiration came from the source of the Kowhai flower, which really sort of concludes my part of talking about the strategy which led to the product design. And I'm going to hand it back to Diego now to tell you a little bit about how the product ended up.
Right, well, with biophilia as sort of the starting point, we brought all the elements of the natural curves, the overlapping petals, and we just didn't want something that was square-edged and plain and boring, and we wanted something that sort of enveloped you and provided that little sort of sanctuary of space. And with that as well, starting from that biophilic sort of viewpoint, nature and the environment itself are front of mind, and so sustainable design practices and concerns come to the fore as well. So we looked at how material and fabric efficiencies could be made through some of the design choices in some of the dimensions and how the things work together, how the three-piece construction allowed for flat packing and nesting, which in turn allowed for more efficient shipping and thereby reduced emissions, how the sandwich design, which you can see sort of there with the piping detail, that helped minimize materials as well, and also added some of that natural aesthetic element of the overlapping and combining of the petals in the flower. There's a hidden fixing-free join, which I don't have a slide of, unfortunately, which was a very clever design that allows the three pieces, the large back piece and the two corner pieces, to link together without any fixings, which from an installation point of view is brilliant, but also from an environmental point of view. At the end of the product's life, the recyclability is that much easier because you don't have screws and glue and all the other stuff holding things together. So everything seemed to work together as it does in nature. And it was almost the opposite of what we went through with the cable management design, where every single element caused us more problems, and we had to figure it out and figure it out and figure it out. Here, every little element worked with the design and worked towards more benefits, and it was just, yeah, in the end, we had the Kowhai Screen, but it was also a beginning for us. I think, Jesse, you mentioned about the discovery journey. So for us, it was really, we hope, just the beginning down the path of design and discovery, working with talented and innovative designers here in New Zealand, and bringing Aotearoa design to the world. So, yeah, that's us. Thank you.